Hello, today we're going to be reading Chapter 8 of Takeout by Margaret Maron. What? Buntrock came to his feet so abruptly that his chair tipped over and papers went flying as he scrambled to catch them. "He's who?" asked Hester Cone. "Like hell he is." "Don't shoot the messenger," said Bonita Parsons, holding up her hands. "Shall I show him in?" Hester could only nod mutely as Buntrock retrieved his paper and righted the chair. The man who entered appeared to be in his early 40s. He was as tall as Oscar Newman, and his hair was going to white. Otherwise, Hester saw no resemblance to the artist she had known since she was a child playing under her father's desk in this very office. His shoulders were broader, his neck much thicker, but yes, his eyes were blue, and returned their appraising stares with an unsmiling appraisal of his own. To break the awkward silence, Buntrock stretched out his hand. "Elliot Buntrock, this is Miss Cone, and you are?" The stranger gave an embarrassed shrug. "Actually, I'm not quite sure what to tell you. My passport says Vincent Haas. My birth certificate says Vincent Newman." He his spoke with a slight accent. "Since Deutscher?" asked Buntrock, who was semi-fluent in several languages. "Not German. No. Austrian. Well, actually, I'm an American, born in California, but brought up in Austria." "Please, may I explain?" "By all means," said Hester Cone. She gestured for him to take the other chair across from her desk. An asymmetrical slab of sea-green glass. The heady scent of her gardenia perfume elicited an appreciative smile from the stranger. "My birth mother was Leila Nagy," he said, laying a manila envelope on the irregular corner of the desk that jutted out toward him. He looked from Hester to Elliot. "I see that name is familiar to you, Mr. Buntrock." Elliot, who labored under the delusion that he had a poker face, nodded. Hester looked at him inquiringly. "Rudy Gottfried said she and Newman met soon after he came to New York," Elliot said, "back when he and Oscar shared a studio downtown." "Then perhaps you knew that when she left him, she went to California?" "I really don't know any of the details, just that they were lovers and that she tried to cut off his ear and—" Hester was startled. "She did what?" "And," said Elliot, "I think she tried to attack the woman he started seeing after they broke up. Yes, this too is what I have been told. After that incident, she fled to California and gave birth to me there." He took a document from the envelope and slid it across the green glass surface of the desk. "As you see, Oscar Newman of New York City is listed as my father." Hester scanned the paper and passed it on to Elliot. Back then, she could have named anybody. This birth certificate doesn't make it so." "True," he agreed, "but why would she lie all those years ago?" "I only know what she told my mother, my adoptive mother." "Let him finish, Hester," said Elliot, and she subsided back into her chair. "Thank you," said Vincent Haas. "You know that Leila Nagy is in a prison for the criminally insane?" Clearly, Hester did not, but again Elliot nodded. "I was told that even as a child she would go into uncontrollable rages. In the end, she killed a young woman, and this time they sent her to prison. Her sister, my adoptive mother, flew over for the trial and took me back to Austria with her. I wasn't even 3, so I have no memory of that time. Some of her paintings hung on the walls of our house, and they talked about her talent and her beauty. But I was never told that Lila was my mother. Instead, I was brought up as the son of Anja and Claus Haas. Hester frowned, but did not speak. My father died about 2 years ago. My mother passed this past January. Among her papers was a letter to me and this birth certificate. The letter told me Lila's history, where she was and the awful thing she had done, and that I was Lila's son by a famous artist. She said that she wrote to him after my father died and told him about me, but she never heard back from him. "Oh, dear God," Hester murmured. "Anja Haas? That's why the name sounds familiar. A registered letter came for Oscar the day he left for California from Anja Haas. It had an Austrian return address, and it was marked urgent, private, and personal. I remember that I took those words at face value because they were heavily underlined. So I put it in a new envelope the same day and overnighted it to his hotel. When we heard that he'd died, it went right out of my mind. But you were there, Elliot. Did he get it? If he did, he didn't mention it to me. So he never knew," Vincent Haas said sadly. "When I first read my mother's letter, I hoped it might mean that I had a brother or sister. But I searched online and it didn't say he ever married or had children." "No," Hester said. "Maybe if he'd lived," Elliot murmured. Hester lifted a skeptical eyebrow. "You think? Can you see Sigrid in an apron, or changing diapers?" All the same, Vincent Haas stirred in his chair. "Is there anyone who would know about his brothers or sisters?" "Maybe," said Hester. "I never heard any mention of relatives. In fact, I think he was an only child, but my father's partner is still alive. If anyone would know, surely it would be Jacob." Haas's face brightened. "Is he here in the city? Can I see him?" "I don't think so." She looked at Buntrock. "Maybe Sigrid could arrange it." Buntrock frowned. "Do we really want to bring her into it now?" "Who is this Sigrid?" Haas asked. Ignoring his question, Hester said, "Tell me, Mr. Haas, what exactly is it that you want? Are you planning to put in a claim against Oscar Newman's estate?" Haas shrugged. "Why not? Is that so strange? He was my father. I'm his son. Doesn't that give me certain rights?" Hester Kahn turned to her computer screen and clicked several times, and lights blinked on the printer behind her. A moment later, she handed Vincent Haas the printout. That's the name and address of Oscar Newman's attorney." She stood up and her voice was cold. "He's the one you should talk to, not us." "Please," he protested. "Money is not the important thing." "No?" She touched a button on her desk phone. "Ms. Parsons will show you out." When they were alone, Hester reached for her phone. "I'd better give Marcus Livingston a heads up." Buntrock was pacing her office like an agitated shorebird whose catch had just been snatched away by an opportunistic gull. God knows what this is going to mean for the Arnheim retrospective. "And somebody needs to tell Sigrid," she said. And that's the end of chapter 8. And as always, have a wonderful day.